Hi everyone, we'll get started. So great to see you all here. Thank you for coming to this, the fifth showcase of the Stats Unleashed Data Access Pathways team. So yeah, it's great to see you all here, and welcome as well to people who are watching on our YouTube live stream or tuning in from our Auckland or Christchurch offices. So here is our journey so far. In a moment, here we go. So just a quick recap that, after listening to our customers, one of the things we heard really strongly is that people with better connections find it easier to access and use data with confidence. So we've been focusing on figuring out sort of what a solution might look like that would help the community and all the knowledge and expertise that goes with that to connect more easily with one another. And bring them closer together. So we've been sort of refining an idea by putting that in front of customers and listening to their feedback, thinking about sort of what parts resonated, what parts didn't resonate, and using that to sort of refine the concept. And after showing people those ideas on paper for a couple of times, we thought, okay, well, we think we're onto something good. What if we put something more realistic in front of people? Would they react in the same way when they're, interacting with it? So that's what we've been doing over the last 2 weeks. We built something and we've put it in front of customers again, and we've been watching their reaction and listening to them. So today, John and Tim will give you a quick guided demo of what our tool is looking like now and some of the things we did during our testing, and then Ricky will talk about some of the meaty concepts that have come up from speaking with people and perhaps what our next steps might be. And then hopefully we'll have heaps of time at the end for your questions. So thank you.
So as you can recall, we tested the concept of having one place to go for answers with wireframes. In a week, we built a more realistic version this time, which our testers could interact with. It was largely functional, but lacked the full content. We also saw some questions and answers to put into the back end, but it was more to give a feel of the site rather than fully populate it. The ask a question dimension was also not able to be developed in such a short time frame. We asked those we spoke with to imagine they were using the tool for a recent data interaction or question they were exploring. For example, suppose Tim was to type in a current topic like housing in the search bar.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm going to type in housing into the search bar. So you can see a bit of what we've built, what's going on here. WordPress is the architecture behind it, but I'll just take you through how a search works. You search for something. And we've pre-populated this with a few, as John said, a few results that we thought that would give it some foundation, make it look much more real, and also hopefully cater it to the sorts of queries we thought people would be asking. So there are a couple of, well, there's a few results here, but I'll just show you the second one because it gives an idea of how we thought this would be used. So it's a question from a researcher saying that they're working on something, they're looking to get a little help with their methodology, putting that question out to the community. And then we've got an expert from Treasury chiming in to say that they can help, that they're delivering their findings shortly, and they should come along and see. The other things just worth noting, Ricky will touch a little bit later on how they've been received or what we need to do with them. But we've got a categories bar up here, which is, I mean, it's how we thought we'd organise the information just for the purposes of demoing it. We've got a bit of feedback there, and the tag cloud underneath, which is going to be present on every page, weighted, but just lets you jump around and navigate things. So yeah, John, would you like to talk a bit more?
So what we were observing was how easy it was for people to navigate and find information. What we found was that people navigated in different ways. With the results on screen, we asked whether the outcomes of the search would be useful for our testers. There was feedback that the site was intuitive, clean, and easy on the eye. We gauged usefulness by asking people to mark on a scale after they'd spent 10 minutes exploring the site. Most people felt that they would use this once a week for their daily role, but for a range of reasons. However, there were caveats around this being a fully functional and structured site for them to really engage with it. People could imagine going to the site first when they had a question. There was a lot of positivity about the potential. We're often offered suggestions about what could be enhanced or added to the concept. We got objectivity into the process by presenting people with scales to mark. Generally, people warmed to the site once they'd played with it and thought about what it could do for them and others. Most of our testers said that they would recommend it to others.
Good. So I'll now take you through some of the challenges we've heard in our interviews with customers last week. So there was definitely a theme around time commitment and engagement. So as you heard, the tool is designed for the community, and there needs to be a critical mass of people using it for it to work. There has to be a certain amount of people and content to get over this initial hump. And I guess to sum it up, for people to use it, it needs to be useful. But for it to be useful, people need to be using it. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing. So overall, people were really keen to participate, but some of them did say that they will need their manager or organization's commitment to get them the space and the time to do it. And we also acknowledge that there's a difference between people saying that, yep, sure, I'll use it in a test situation like that, to actually engaging with it once it's gone live. Around accessibility, there were questions around whether people can use the tool from within the Data Lab environment, because they see that as really key. And it needs to be really easy to get into in terms of logging in and creating an account and things like that. So some people said that it's important to acknowledge people's contribution to the community. And they suggested systems like TrainMe or TripAdvisor, where people can leave feedback about their interaction with others. So the plan is, because the plan is to eventually open it up to the public, and to protect confidentiality, there needs to be clear guidance on what can and can't be shared on a site like this. And also we need to consider whether moderation is necessary or whose role it would be to do that. Around scope, so we recognize that the tool is not going to solve every problem for everyone. Just being clear on what the tool does and doesn't do and who it's designed for. And there were questions around how it works with existing resources like RDI Wiki and metadata and version control, just so we don't end up with a bunch of information that's overlapping or doubling up. We also got some useful feedback around navigation, as Tim mentioned. So the interface needs to be really clean and simple, and also comments around how well the search engine works currently. It's pretty basic at the moment, but we're looking to improve it. And also around the tags and categories that Tim touched on before, just around the consistency and control, and they do things that people expect them to. So having said all that, we don't see any of these meta issues as being showstoppers. We're using the Agile process to break down these issues, and so we can work through them in small chunks. And one of the things we're looking at doing is to run a closed pilot with a small group of users to understand how people interact with the tool and understand whether it's useful for people and how they deal with these issues. So I'll now hand it over to Tim to facilitate your questions.
Yeah, I'm going to throw them to Anna if they're really hard, but hello.
So, have you considered shoulder tapping or having like chaser style gurus who can pump prime advice? So having a set of people who you go, okay, if you get a question in this thing that you can answer it.
Yeah.
Maybe as part of the role.
Yeah, actually that's kind of the genesis for how this idea came about. One of the personas that we developed while we were doing the early interviews was the idea of a helper. And those are kind of the experts who hold all the knowledge within their fields. And they spend a lot of their time giving that knowledge out, kind of piece by piece to individuals. And this tool was an idea that helped them find a place to store that knowledge, to free them up to do other things. And one of the ideas that we tested in an early prototype was the idea of having a place to ask, and that being fired out to, as you said, a group of experts and let them kind of try and draw it together. What we're working through at the moment is the idea of time commitments, whether those experts have the time to help us, what sort of things we can do to incentivize that, and whether stats needs to be the first port of call to maybe try and answer some of the easy questions before they go to the experts. So, yeah.
Got a question around the accessibility. How do you envisage it working between being accessible and writable within the data lab environment, but visible outside?
Those are some conversations we need to have. This isn't going to work if it's not accessible within the lab, but it's just a question of how do you manage things like getting code from the platform into being usable in the lab, or yeah, so working through things like that. And we've got some meetings keyed up next week to talk with some of the people involved in those controls and see what we can do, and yeah, develop from there in small chunks. Do we have anything?
Was like metadata less relevant? Was sort of replaced or started on the side?
We're hoping it picks up some of the areas where metadata might have let down the community. There are some accessibility issues around metadata. There are some people don't use it as much as they could, and that means it's not as useful to people coming to look for information. So we're trying to learn from how metadata works. I don't think we've made calls about whether we're usurping just yet, but yeah, shaking her head. No, we haven't made that call.
Question on YouTube.
We've got a question on YouTube. Technology. This tool will address the overall problem definitions of helping people build networks and connections. And what else do you think is needed to fully address the problem? Yeah, so what we've built is really good at answering questions, and the question's right. The issue is drawing the community together. We're confident in our hypothesis that if you build one place for the community to come together, that will facilitate some of the interactions between different parts of the community, like some cross-disciplinary work. But the trick is going to be encouraging people to move outside those different silos that we might build on the site. And again, that'll be a discussion about incentivizing, it'll be a discussion about needs, and us looking at how people actually use it. So,
and I
yeah.
think, so there are already a number of things that the community does for itself, and that, us as the producers of the IDI and LBD do for the community as well, like forums and things like that. And I don't think that this would ever replace people interacting as people and those sorts of things as well. So it would be something that would work for the community alongside some of those other things as well.
Hopefully that answers your question. YouTube land.
Dave, 4321. User.
Thanks, Dave.
YouTube.
Yeah. Anyone else maybe in the other centres? No? Quiet time. Cool. Class dismissed.
Thank you very much.